Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're not just doing a simple comparison. Oh no, we're launching a full-scale investigation into an everyday object that you either completely take for granted or absolutely depend on for your very survival. Yep, we're talking about the rooftop water tank.
Let me ask you something. Have you ever been left with shampoo in your hair? Because if you grew up anywhere in Latin America, you know exactly what this scenario feels like. You step into the shower, you get a really good lather going, and then nothing. The water just stops. You're left standing there, totally covered in soap, completely at the mercy of that big tank sitting up on your roof. It's kind of like the silent judge of your household, deciding if you get to bathe in peace today or if you'll be rinsing off with a bucket.
Now try explaining that soapy mid-shower panic to someone from the United States. They would probably look at you like you're crazy. And that's because in the US, that individual rooftop tank pretty much doesn't exist. For them, water just flows from the tap with constant pressure 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. No individual tanks, no rationing, no sudden cuts. So the question here isn't just about who is more organized. It's about how an entire system is designed so that a massive population literally never ever has to think about their water supply.
Okay, let's dive right into this and pull back the curtain. Part 1. The invisible US system and its 24/7 constant pressure. The secret to all of this lies in a truly staggering number, 3 million. We're talking about 3 million kilometers of pipes. The entire country relies on this massive, totally invisible network that stretches all the way from municipal treatment plants directly into every single faucet in every single house. And to put that into perspective, an incredible 39 billion gallons of water flows through that expansive network every single day just for daily consumption. The entire magic trick here relies on one single word: pressure. You see, this system is highly regulated by sensors across the entire grid. If the pressure drops even just a few points, or say there's a leak miles away, the system detects it in seconds. So you can turn on a faucet on the 3rd floor of a house, and it comes out with the exact same force as the 1st floor. It's wild.
But here is a really fascinating detail. The US actually does use water tanks. They just aren't sitting on top of single-family homes. Instead, they use what are called water towers. These are giant, elevated municipal tanks that you'll see in almost every single American town, usually painted right there with the town's name on the side. These things can hold up to 1 million gallons of water. Essentially, the entire town is sharing one massive communal tank that maintains that perfect water pressure for everyone all at the same time.
Well, we also have to factor in the climate here, because this wasn't just some arbitrary design choice. It was an absolute necessity. Just look at states like Minnesota, Wisconsin, or Michigan. In the dead of winter, temperatures there can easily plummet to -20 degrees. If you put a water tank on a roof in those conditions, it would freeze solid in a matter of minutes, and the pipes would literally burst. So this harsh climate reality forced engineers right from the very beginning to bury their infrastructure deep underground, safely below the freeze line.
But keeping this invisible, sensor-driven, underground utopia running, yeah, it is not cheap. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency estimates that just to maintain this existing water infrastructure over the next 2 decades, and we're talking just keeping it from falling apart, not even improving it, it will cost a staggering $744 billion. So yeah, it's an incredibly expensive reality to maintain.
Now, let's switch gears and see how this builds into our next point. Part 2, the Latin American reality and the necessity of the rooftop tank. Here's the thing. Just having a pipe connected to your house absolutely does not mean you actually have water. A staggering 41% of Latin American homes that are connected to the grid still face severe water shortages during the month. Think about that. That's 4 out of 10 homes that technically have plumbing, but simply do not get the water they need when they need it.
And here is the brutal contrast we're looking at. While someone in the US can run 3 showers at once without losing a single drop of pressure, in a lot of Latin American homes, the supply is so intermittent and so weak that you literally cannot run a shower and a kitchen sink at the same time. The water simply doesn't arrive 24/7. So when it does arrive, you have to capture it and hold on to it for dear life. And that is exactly why the rooftop tank becomes an absolute non-negotiable household necessity.
So what's causing this huge gap? Well, it's not about one region just being better at building pipes. That brings us to part 3, a matter of history, and how these cities actually grew. You see, in the US, massive urban expansion happened mostly post-World War II. The federal government invested heavily in infrastructure up front. I mean, they literally laid the pipes down before the neighborhoods were even built. They were planning for decades of growth. But in Latin America, it was the exact opposite. Millions of people rapidly migrated from rural areas to the cities in just a few short decades. They arrived, settled on unserviced land, and built their homes long before a water grid ever existed.
So the crucial takeaway here is this. When the water grid finally did reach these spontaneously built Latin American neighborhoods, engineers couldn't just design a perfect high-pressure system from scratch. They had to patch into whatever haphazard layout was already there, using whatever budget they had at the time. And mathematically, physically, generating constant optimal pressure in a patched-up network like that, it's virtually impossible.
But unfortunately, this everyday workaround comes with a pretty serious cost. Let's look at Section 4, the hidden danger, and the real health risks involved. That tank on your roof? It isn't just a harmless bucket holding your weekend shower water. It's a real public health risk. Just think about it for a second. Water can sit up there completely unmoving for days at a time. It heats up under the direct, intense sunlight. Unseen sediments start to accumulate at the bottom, and if the lid isn't perfectly sealed, or if the tank's material is just getting old and deteriorating, the water quality drops dramatically before it ever even reaches your glass. And this brilliantly illustrates the risk we're talking about. A study on peri-urban communities in Lima found severe contamination. We're talking fecal matter, right there in the household stored water. And here is the great irony of it all. The water coming from the municipal grid actually arrived perfectly treated and clean. It was the time spent sitting in the uncontrolled environment of the rooftop tank that completely ruined it.
Now you might be wondering, wait a minute, what about massive skyscrapers in New York or Chicago? Don't they need help with water pressure? Well, yeah, they do. But look at the difference here. In U.S. high-rises, they use these automated, constantly renewed, hidden sensor-controlled systems. The user literally never sees it and never has to worry about it. Meanwhile, in Latin American homes, the solution is a highly visible, manually managed emergency tank sitting right on your roof, causing daily anxiety over whether it's suddenly going to empty out on you.
Ultimately, that is what this whole shebang boils down to. The rooftop water tank is not just some quirky cultural tradition, it's not an architectural preference. What it actually represents is millions of individual families who have been forced to independently solve a collective infrastructure problem that the state simply wasn't capable of fixing. So I want you to think about your own home for a second. Do you rely on a rooftop tank to get through the week, or are you one of the lucky ones with invisible, constant pressure? It's wild to think that where you live almost entirely dictates how you interact with this absolute most basic resource.
The infrastructure beneath our feet and above our heads shapes our lives in profound ways that we rarely ever question. And speaking of things we rarely question, if you found this explainer fascinating, it actually opens up a whole new architectural mystery. While the US is absolutely full of houses with underground cellars, have you ever wondered why there are almost no basements in Latin America? That is a story for another time, but I guarantee the answer will completely surprise you. Keep questioning the world around you, and thanks for joining me.